I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. You know, it's a real treat when you get to do something with like one of your actual favorite people and we get to record something, and so very cool. My guest is Anna Kennedy, who I have known for many years, probably like five
Yeah, something like
years.
that. Yeah.
So I've known Anna for about 5 years. We've worked together in a couple of capacities. She's an outstanding Vistage chair, and welcome. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to do this.
So you're a little bit unique in that you're the chair of one of the Vistage small business groups, and
Yeah.
they're out there, but they're a lot more difficult to find than some of the others. So actually, I'd love it if just for a second you could give us a little bit of background on the Vistage small business group and what the differences are between those and like the CE groups and the TA groups, which a lot people are a lot more familiar with.
Yes, of course. And you're right. There are just many, many CE groups, and small business groups are, as you said, hard to find. Mine is probably somewhat unique in that I will take members who are at 1 million and above. Very occasionally, I'll take a really great looking opportunity if somebody's smaller than that and I can tell that they've done this before. But most of the even chairs running small business groups tend to look a little higher in revenue than that. But the official boundary is that we're supposed to recruit them at under 10 million.
Okay.
So that's quite a wide range. There's a lot
It,
happens to you in that time between 1 million and 10. That's colossal.
well,
So
yeah,
yeah.
first of all, it's an enormous range, and
Mhm.
and you've also got a lot of crossover there between somebody who joins a small business group and somebody who would join a CE group, the chief executive group,
Yeah.
because I'm sure as you've seen there are a lot of the chief executive members that are less than 10 million.
Yes, indeed they are. Well, it's my mission to actually get people to 15 million. And at around that point, I kind of know they're ready to move on. They've outgrown what the group can provide for them. So it's a great opportunity to find them a new group, a new possibility of working in an industry group or something that's really a fit for what they need now, particularly if they're thinking of selling, so that they're really preparing themselves for that outcome. Although I have, I think, sold 7 businesses from the group since I started seven
Okay.
years ago.
Are you, and I hope you're getting a percentage or no, nothing. I think
They don't get very much for those small businesses,
it's
but they're
okay.
very happy. Often they're
Oh
retiring.
no, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Uh, one of the neat things about talking to Vistage chairs is that this isn't anybody's first career.
No.
Very often, being a Vistage chair is a second or a third career. Um, I would love for you to tell some of your story about the experiences that you had prior to Vistage.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about my experiences in the US, which now cover 30 years or so. So that's long enough to talk about. But I was actually a college president in the UK, and they were going to close the college down. And they wanted me to go and write policy in London. And I
Okay.
couldn't think of anything more boring than that. So he said, "Shall we go to America for a few years?" And I said, "Sure." And I actually joined the company that he was working for. and help them in their user experience endeavors and in their documentation and stuff like that. So a very technical company
And
building
so
some very clever
you're
software.
one of these immigrants that came and just immediately
Yeah,
snatched up an American job.
I am absolutely an immigrant. That's absolutely true. And and I always say that to people. I say, don't forget. I say that I'm an immigrant. I take my life here with great joy and appreciation of what the US has been able to provide for both of us.
And you're in the greater Los Angeles area, which of course, I mean, even just saying that it is an enormous piece of real estate.
It
Um,
really
did
is. Mhm.
did you come straight from the UK to Southern California, or were there stops?
No, there was a stop along the way because the headquarters of the company was in Minnesota,
Oh,
in St.
that's a heck.
Paul, in
That
St.
is
Paul.
that is that is not only a heck of a spot, but that is a very different sort of spot, not only than Southern California, but also England.
Yeah, yeah, it was a culture shock in one degree because it felt like stepping back 30 years.
I can
And then
imagine.
the other piece of it was that it was extremely cold in the winter. And I wasn't used to that. I was used to rain, but not a lot of snow. So, yeah, that was
No,
a different experience.
that's a
And
special kind of cold too.
that
Not
really is. Yeah. But luckily, my boss, the CEO, I think he saw a lot of potential in me. So he moved us over to California and we started acquiring some great clients in California. And of course, the kids loved it. They were out on their bikes in March, which you wouldn't be able to do in Minnesota, not at
oh
all.
yeah.
So they were very happy that we decamped to
In
California, and we've been here ever since.
in March, you're still on the snowmobile, right?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, in March, in Minnesota, I would wash my car in a t-shirt, and people would look at me like if when I was in California and going into the store in March, and I had a t-shirt on, they go, "Aren't you cold?"
Y- Yeah, no, it's definitely different, and so now you've got I mean, probably the best climate in the whole country after
Oh,
Minnesota.
it
So,
is pretty nice. It really is. Um, and then I finished up after working for that company and then through acquisition, being part of the dot-com boom and subsequently the bust. So working on huge web projects for many years. Um, I actually decided that it was time I started my own company to help people with their business development because that was my real area of expertise. And so I spent 7 years building and then selling that company. And it was at that point that I realized during that journey that, my final boss, the last boss I ever had, he was a Vistage member. And he used to
hmm.
invite us to those wonderful speaker meetings that you
Oh
have.
yeah.
So I got invited to two or three of those when I was with the company. And I thought if I ever start a business, I'm going to join Vistage. And
And what sort of membership did you have when you were running your business?
so I had a small business. I joined a small business group, and the amazing thing was that my chair, who I still love and adore, he's now a fellow chair, but at that time my own chair. I asked him, "Why did you take me? I'm too small for this group," and he said, "It's what you know that is what I want." So I said, "Okay, as long as you can help me grow, that will be fine." So
I I
yeah,
think that I got into Vistage kind of the same way. I also
yeah,
was very too small.
yeah,
Um,
really too small.
so so what was and then you sold the business
I
and
did.
you said, all right, we're gonna you're gonna be a Vistage chair. How did that, how did you come to I was a Vistage member, I was a business owner, and now I'm going to, what was the path that led you from there to actually being a chair?
Well, at the beginning of 2016, it was January, and I was thinking, what am I going to do next? Because I knew I was going to sell the business, and I was pretty certain I was going to sell it to my COO. Um, and I was thinking maybe I could be a Vistage chair. And then I thought, no, I haven't got the skill set for that. And the very next day, somebody from Vistage called me and said, have you ever considered being a Vistage chair? And I said, well, yesterday I
Yeah, you
wasn't,
said.
but today maybe I'll consider it.
Well,
And that's how it happened. It
and
literally happened like that.
and frankly, I mean, and I've talked to a number of chairs about it, but it may be that you had the exact right background for being a Vistage chair, because I think that, and I've heard it a number of times, the hardest. Actually, I was talking to uh, I do I record a couple of these a day sometimes, and I was talking to somebody earlier who, who also had kind of said this is the hardest thing that I ever had to do was recruiting my own group.
Yeah,
And because a lot of Vistage chairs don't come in with that expertise. That's
no,
not that the idea that, oh, well, now I've got to, it's not just about like I'm gonna be an expert and I get to help people and I get to facilitate these great meetings and book these incredible speakers. It's oh no, I actually have to I actually have to recruit all of the members of my group.
yeah, yeah. It's like you have to pick up the phone and start calling people, and you have to start emailing people, and you have to start connecting with them on LinkedIn.
How
And
was that
my
experience for you?
It was, well, it wasn't difficult for me because I just keep at it. I mean, I know what
Right.
business development is like. So that wasn't really the problem. It was more that my previous clients were, they were spread all over the country. I didn't have a strong base in California. I had one or two clients, but really very few. So I had to really build that community in LinkedIn, start connecting with those small businesses. So I did it. In those days, you could actually do it. 7 or 8 years
Right.
ago, it wasn't that hard to do. So I did that, and I started just sending out posts, and people who had agreed to connect with me, they picked things up, and every so often I would get a response from them, and they say we should talk, and that was it. And pretty much every single one of them that wanted to talk, they knew they were ready for something like this. So it didn't go too badly. The funniest story was the first person that I decided to speak to about this. And I actually asked him, he was a friend of mine, business owner, and I asked him if he would let me run through my spiel. And there was to be no obligation for him to join or anything. I just want to test it on you and, see if it's any good. And I got almost to the end to everything I wanted to say and the conversation that we were having. And I was opening my mouth to say the next thing. And he said, Anna, you can stop now. You've sold me.
You just started throwing money at you.
He was my first member,
That's really cool.
which was very cool. Yeah, that was fun.
So, what was as you were growing the group, what was the big lesson for you as an incoming chair? You're excited, you're doing the work. What was, and so it wasn't the biz dev work, but what was like the most difficult hurdle for you to overcome, and the biggest thing that you learned in that process of going from I'm going to be a chair to actually launching the group? And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's very often like a good length of time.
Yeah, in my case, it was just under 6 months before I launched. So that's pretty
That's
sharpish.
yeah,
There have
that's
been
pretty
other people
short.
who,
In the
yeah,
I've heard of people taking 15 months.
yeah, that's right. So I was in that kind of high speed group. Some of them have done it quicker than me, but nonetheless, I think the thing that really stood in my own way was myself, and it was mostly because I'm somebody who likes to make sure that people are really getting what they want, right? They're really getting what they need for their business. And I really overextended myself in what I provided for them. And to be fair, business owners, they need a lot of handhold.
There are a
And
lot of rabbit holes that you can go down.
yeah, so I went down a few too many rabbit holes. And I really had to pull myself back and reconstitute what we were doing in terms of our group meetings and one-to-ones, and what they might reasonably expect of me for any extracurricular activities that they needed help with. So yeah, I learned to say no, basically.
And in that lesson, and then in making the transition to having an active group, and now having done it for several years, what's your what's your approach to coaching, or how you work with your members? How has that evolved?
Well, I think my philosophy is that you can only take somebody from here to here. You can't take them from here to there in one step.
Sure.
So you've got to work with them where they are and help them understand what's holding them back, um, and various strategies that they might try. It's a conversation between two business owners, right? Um, Trying to figure out what really is standing in the way. And you see this very fully developed when we do issue processing in our groups. But even in a one-to-one, it's an opportunity to give them that gentle push to overcome the fear that they have about something, or they don't want to talk to this person because they remind him of their nasty uncle that they had when they were younger and things like that. And you just got to get past all those things, and not let the past influence how you think you should act today, what you think you should do today or not do. So a lot of it has been based in neuroscience, based in understanding how we actually function as human beings, and how strangely close we are to the animal kingdom, um, and how far away as well. Literally
So,
live in concrete jungles.
um,
So
that's a
that's
that's a
it
heck of
really.
a that's a heck of a soundbite.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm a scientist really by background, so I really enjoy digging into these kinds of things that can make a difference for people's lives. And it definitely makes a difference for my small business group, that they understand themselves better, and consequently they understand why people behave the way they do, and they can be just a little bit more empathetic and yet a little bit more clear in their boundaries. And
and
that's been a huge development for most of them.
and apparently they're willing to let you experiment on them, and so that's a big benefit
Yeah.
too. We're gonna get in there and tinker. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they
Well,
enjoy it.
tell me about, if you don't mind, the sort of the makeup of your group. What are your members like? What are they wrestling with?
Yeah. Well, the group is almost 50-50 male and female, which is a
What,
little unusual for
yes,
Vistage.
it's very unusual actually.
Yeah.
That's an achievement on its own.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably a little easier for women to attract women to a group, but it's maintained a pretty stable 50-50 ratio for quite a long time. And they're working in a wide variety of industrial type jobs, companies, in in services industries. So it's a really nice, healthy mix. And in the mix, I always like to have a couple of professionals. So if I can have a lawyer in the group, I really like that. If I can have an accountant, it's like a
Oh
gift,
yeah. It
because
it, it
they will teach my group how to read financials. So
having a CPA or a lawyer present is a very big deal.
yeah, yeah,
It
those people, they always say without prejudice, but they will actually give a little bit of advice or help people sort of think through the issues. So those things are really helpful. And then I bring my own business development capability to the table. So once in a while, I will make a suggestion on an issue processing if we're talking about, how do I grow my business.
Which, by the
Um,
way, is also a rare find in a
mm,
in a Vistage chair. There aren't we there aren't a ton of you guys that really come in with a sales background.
No, people do tend to come very much from either I'm an appointed CEO, and I have either a family that owns the business fully or whatever, and they're dealing with the whole gamut of different types of situations. But we just have to tackle everything slowly and steadily. I mean, I learn alongside them, and I learn a lot by reading books and occasionally writing them, and and that teaches you a great deal. So
So I,
that's my joy.
you made the segue for me. I wasn't going to let you get away without talking about. I think it would be disingenuous to call it a side hustle, but your other hustle.
Yeah, but hustle, yeah.
Um, uh, talk for a minute about being a writer and how many books you've written and all
Yeah,
of that.
I will. So I started ghostwriting in 2011, and I was a friend of mine asked me if I could write a dummies book for him, and his topic was agile.
Okay.
And he's not a writer. He's definitely more comfortable with the spoken word. He's a great trainer. He's an immense authority in the industry. And I said, well, it's funny you should say that because I want to write business development for dummies. So this will give me a practice run.
And
And
and and for reference as well, while he was not a good writer, you also are not a scrum master or an agile
no,
development expert.
no. I went to his course. He basically trained me, gave me all the materials that he had, which was a lot. And I worked with him and obviously the dummy style is very specific. You have to, it's like formulaic that you have to write the way they want you to. And I picked that up and I stuck to my schedule. I wrote a chapter every single week. And we did it in time, and he got published. And of course, it was a huge seller. I mean, it was an enormous seller. Everybody wanted that book, so that was great. So,
In
and a
in
few short years later, I wrote Business Development for
in
Dummies.
in 2011, 2012, I can imagine that was a
Yeah,
huge topic then.
it was the
Huge.
hot topic. Yeah, this is how you were going to transform, how technology is developed.
You,
So yeah, it was great.
you couldn't have timed it any better.
It was really awesome, and from then on, I started finding people who wanted something that they could find a ghostwriter for, and they were writing nonfiction. They were writing business books, and there aren't that many people around who want to take on a business book because you have to get yourself deeply into their knowledge and their understanding to be able to write on their behalf.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a very close relationship when you're doing that. But I really enjoy it. I just come to appreciate the people who've spent their working years developing different methodologies, approaches to things, and so on. So yeah, it's been remarkable doing that. I love doing it. And on the way, I published a novel many years ago. I just published my first children's picture book of my own, so that's fun.
That is fun. So
Yeah,
how many books have you written?
I'm going to say six, seven are ghost written. I've done a couple of um, lead magnets, as they call
Hmm.
them, so sort of an extended, sort of a mini ebook.
Yeah.
But usually with some real meat in it, so that if you download it, you think it was worth it giving somebody your email. So that's been good. I've done some of those. I've written some articles, sort of extended researched articles. So a nice mix of things. But first and foremost, I'm a Vistage Chair, so I pay attention to that first and right away when I can, usually at the weekend.
What's the and anybody who's been in the Vistage universe, it's like we all have these moments, these like, big ahas that we see and of course it happens at every meeting. But what's that like biggest aha that came out of one of your meetings that you wish that you could have told yourself as a younger person?
Oh boy, yes. I think that it's, like, Eric, you know me fairly well, so you probably know I'm a bit of a people pleaser. So when I was younger, I found it difficult to confront people. Or if I did confront them, I would probably be angry, and that didn't work very well.
Mm.
But we had a particular session that we were doing, and often the topic of, when do you choose to fire somebody came up.
Oh boy.
And it came up, in a situation where there had been a tolerance that had gone on for months and months and months. And in the discussion, uh, the members were saying, "Why have you waited so long?" And he actually said, "Because I'm afraid to just do it. I'm afraid to actually say the words. I don't like I don't like confrontational situations." And with a great deal of encouragement and support, he went away and he did that. And it was just, he came back the next month and it was like a load had been lifted off his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
And I wish I'd realized that at the time, that you don't have to be fearful to just tell somebody how it is. This is how it is. This is how I see it. And they're not going to bite your head off or throw you out or
Well,
whatever. So,
and if they
yeah.
do, that's it doesn't that sort of reinforce the decision?
Yes, absolutely it does. So, and I learn those lessons every day. And these days, I just tell people stuff straight.
Oh,
If they
that's a
say
great
I
one.
want feedback, I give them feedback, right? And I'll give them plenty of acknowledgement for what they do really well, and then I'll point out a couple of things where, maybe this is an area that might help you achieve these sorts of results. So, shall we work on that? So, yeah.
Let, last question for you before I let you go and give you the rest of your day back. If you were talking to a small business owner, um, somebody that's having these struggles that you find so familiar and that you've been spending multiple careers dealing with in one regard
Mhm.
or another, and they are asking about, well, what's this peer group thing all about? What advice would you give somebody who was thinking about taking that plunge?
I think I would go with the magic word, right? So it's because it's so straightforward. These groups exist so that you can make better decisions, so that you can be held accountable, so that you can achieve growth, that you get relief from isolation, and that you become a real change master. And we need to be really good at change
I,
these days.
I love
Really
that
good.
word change master.
Yes.
That's a great word.
And isn't that the truth? I mean, we're surrounded by AI, and I can see my group. They're in there. Like, I took it on very early on to get them to start to be comfortable with the idea that you either do this or you go under,
Right.
right? It's like the world in 3 years' time is not going to be the same world we're sitting in today. And that's an incredibly fast pace of change.
Well,
And we've got
not
to keep up with
well,
it.
not only that, but I mean, when was the last time that we had a that we could say that the world that we ended up in 3 years later was the same that we ended up
Yeah.
with? I mean, and I'd never heard it said exactly this way, but it absolutely blew my mind. It took less than 60 years from the first time that a person left, the first air flight, machine powered air flight, to being on the moon.
Yeah. Isn't
I
that
mean,
amazing?
I mean, 60 years. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
And things have only gotten faster since then.
And they're getting faster all the time. Yeah, that's exactly right. My husband works in that industry, and it's just spectacular what's going on. I just hope I live to see somebody land on Mars. That's my goal, is
Oh,
to actually see that happen.
well, hey, maybe it'll be Elon Musk, and then we don't, and he can just stay there. That'd be
And
all
we
right.
can breathe again.
Yeah. Anna, thank you so much. I really
You're welcome,
appreciate
Greg.
it. What's the best way for if somebody has a question about Vistage, about your group, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Find me on LinkedIn. Just send me a message on LinkedIn. I will absolutely pay attention and get right back to you, and love to have conversations with people, even if it's just to help them in that moment. It's a great thing. I love talking to new businesses all the time. It's one of my pleasures. And then we see where it goes. So yeah, it's a great career to be in. I just love it.
Thank you, Anna. I really appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
You got it. Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.